Hey everybody, Pastor John here again. Um, Today, as I'm sitting here in a lovely basement on what's actually a very beautiful day, let's talk about faith. Now, Pastor John, I can imagine in my head you saying, didn't we just talk about faith? And yes, we did. And if we didn't, then go back to the last video of the Youth Message 6 where we totally did. But we're going to keep talking about faith because, again, that's one of those really, really big issues. Now, the text that I preached on today has a very interesting and very, well, shocking way that Jesus talks about faith. Jesus talks about faith in terms of taking up your cross and following him. That was very shocking to Peter, who, after he hears that, so Jesus is talking to the disciples, and he's asking in the story, so, okay, who do people say that I am? And they start listing off all the people that or all the things that they've heard people say that they think Jesus is like. And that's all well and good. And Jesus points to them and say, and who do you say that I am? And Peter says it absolutely correctly. He says, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And he's filled with praise from Jesus. Jesus just says, yes, good job, gold star. In fact, Jesus goes so far as to tell Peter that you are the rock upon which I will build my church. And that's actually pretty funny in the Greek because Peter in the Greek means rock. And so Jesus is saying, rock, you're the rock, basically. There's actually a lot of things that I think are pretty amusing if you know the Greek or the Hebrew that don't unfortunately translate into our English language texts very well. But so, Peter gets it, right? He at least says that he understands who Jesus is. That itself is a great testimony of faith, right? When we proclaim who Jesus is, that's very important. But 5 verses later, Jesus then reveals that he is on his way to Jerusalem and is going to experience death and then, of course, resurrection and ascension. And the disciples don't know what to do with that, right? You expect the Messiah to come and save you literally from Rome, save you from the oppression that you and your families and your loved ones and your communities face. And Jesus says, well, no, I'm doing something different. To the point where Peter sort of pulls him aside and is like, Jesus, like, God forbid, like, that's not going to happen to you. And Jesus responds by saying, get behind me, Satan. Right? In 5 verses, Peter goes from being the golden boy to get behind me. He goes from being the cornerstone upon which the church is built to being a stumbling block. And then Jesus continues and says, if you're going to follow me, you have to deny yourself. What he says in the text is that you have to die to yourself in order to live for me. You have to take up your cross. And these things are shocking to us, right? The idea that in our culture, especially where everything is so me-centric, that it's actually not about us, that can be really hard, right? So part of what faith is learning how to do that, how to die to ourselves, so to speak, and live this new life, this better life, this abundant life that God promises in Christ for us. And that is part of our work that we as followers of Jesus have to do. That's what we are meant to do in our lives. But doing so means that we are freed. We are freed from living under the bonds of oppression, essentially, which can look like all sorts of things. One form of oppression is where we tell, for instance, when we tell girls that this is all you can do in your life. You can't do that, can't do any further. You can't hold certain jobs, you can't do certain things, right? Something that still goes on in our society. And it's oppressions like saying that you are more valuable if you look like me as opposed to if you're a black person, right? It's the oppressions and hierarchies that mean that people, our friends of color, are going to have a harder time than those of us who are white will, just by virtue of the evils in our world. But Jesus calls us to die to those things and to live freely and abundantly for him. And so, friends, as we keep thinking about what faith is, let's keep this in mind. Faith means that we are no longer fully our own, but that we recognize and we live into the reality that no matter what happens, we belong to the God who created us, who loves us, who wants the best for us, and wants us to be the best we can for other people so that other people can thrive, so that one day everybody can have life abundant. Something to think about. I hope you all are well, especially as school's getting started up again. Please stay safe out there. We miss you all, and we hope to see you real soon. Take care, everybody. I'll talk to you later.